Here's what happened this week in North Carolina politics. This was a very busy week in the nation and our state, so let's just dive right in. A federal appeals court heard arguments this week from Jefferson Griffin, who's trying to overturn the election that he lost in November for North Carolina State Supreme Court to Justice Allison Riggs. The first thing the federal court has to decide is whether it even has jurisdiction over the case. The state Republican Party and Jefferson Griffin are saying that this is purely a matter of state law, in which case the North Carolina Supreme Court has the final say. But the Allison Riggs campaign says no, throwing out tens of thousands of votes on a made-up pretext to accomplish a partisan goal is a violation of those voters' civil rights, which is obviously correct. The Trump White House issued a bunch of executive orders this week, some of which directly impacted North Carolina. First, they rolled back limits on how much PFAS chemicals companies are allowed to discharge into rivers and streams. PFAS refers to a whole class of compounds called forever chemicals that are known to be toxic in large quantities. Last year, the Environmental Protection Agency under Biden introduced the first nationwide limits on PFAS discharge into water supplies and offered funding for hard-hit areas. But Trump's order now reverses all of that. So it's basically game on for PFAS polluters to dump whatever they want. Trump also issued and then clarified and then took back and then sort of took back their take back, it's not really clear, an order freezing all grants and loans managed by the federal government. Now, what makes this thing hard to explain is that no one actually understood it. It was written more like a press release than as instructions to the actual working federal government that exists in the real world. But what it did was create chaos. Medicaid in all 50 states was shut down for a full day. Programs like Head Start and Meals on Wheels that serve real people in the real world were frozen, and they still don't really know what's going to happen. Just the other day, we talked about how the U.S. Department of Transportation has awarded $350 million to repair roads and bridges and infrastructure in western North Carolina from damage from Hurricane Helene. And this order stops all of that. So I guess we'll see. Just some quick housekeeping here. This is not going to become a summary of whatever Trump did this week. You can find that elsewhere if you want. We're going to stay focused on what happens in North Carolina. This was just a really weird week. By the way, if you need some good news, Boom Supersonic had their first successful test flight of a supersonic passenger jet, which is big news for the company and for their Greensboro-based manufacturing center, which is still growing like crazy. Super cool. Keep your head up. Have a great weekend.